Born in a suburb of Paris in 2005, Yoro was successfully scouted and snapped up by Lille's youth academy in 2017 while playing for the local team in Villeneuve-d'Ascq, a town just outside the Hauts-de-France capital, Lille. He made his Ligue 1 debut in the penultimate game of the 2021-22 season, a 3-1 win for Les Dogues over Nice, just one day after his 16th birthday, handing him the distinction of being the second youngest player ever to make a league appearance for LOSC. Yoro went on to have more of a presence in Lille's first team last season, especially in the second half of the campaign when he accrued the vast majority of the 766 minutes with which he finished the 2022-23 French top-flight season. However, it's this term that he's really gone on to cement himself as a first-team pillar for Les Dogues, with Yoro having accumulated 2,518 minutes in the league this term at the time of writing, playing as much as 89% of the possible total league minutes. Figure 1 features a pizza chart displaying Yoro's accumulated minutes for the 2023-24 campaign, along with percentile rankings highlighting which areas of his game have stood out most prominently in 2023-24. Evidently, the 190 cm/6'3", 78 kg/ 171 pound centre-back is a highly reliable defender, as his 96.4 percentile rank in percentage of aerial duels won and 74.5 percentile rank in percentage of successful defensive duels would indicate. In addition to being low volume in terms of defensive actions, he doesn't engage a ton and is undoubtedly a more passive type of centre-back who prefers to provide cover and hang back rather than dart out of the backline and force the engagement. He relies a lot on his high sense of positional awareness, ability to read the game, and technical skills when performing tackles. Yoro's out-of-possession qualities are generally where the centre-back stands out most prominently and what really makes him so highly sought after. Indeed, Yoro is also heavily involved in his side's possession play but doesn't profile as much of a ball progressor. However, he is highly reliable on the ball, committing relatively few errors for a young player and generally remaining calm even under pressure. That said, as we proceed into the next section of this tactical analysis, we'll delve into greater detail on what we've identified as the young centre-back's greatest strengths, as outlined above. As mentioned above, the 18-year-old Lille man shines most in out-of-possession positioning. His ability to read the game to an incredibly high standard, and his impressive defensive technique. Figure 2 shows Yoro's defensive territory map from the 2023-24 campaign. Yoro doesn't tend to make many defensive actions in the opposition's half, preferring to hang back and be the more passive of the defenders in his team. In this way, he can rely on his ability to sense danger and position himself accordingly to deal with it should the potential problem manifest into an actual threat. Hence, we see by far the most of his defensive actions occurring just on the edge of his box or, indeed, inside the penalty area where he has committed one foul this term, as displayed by the graph above. But is normally quite reliable thanks to his proficiency in the aforementioned areas. Figure 3 shows an example of Yoro pulling off a vital tackle inside the penalty area. The passage of play included in Figure 3 demonstrates many of the best qualities in Yoro's game. Firstly, he positions his body really well on the edge of the box as the opposition creator eyes up a defense-splitting through ball. He's side-on, ready for the possibility he'll have to turn and run back to cover for any danger in behind. He also remains in a good position to see the man on the ball and react to any other sudden runners into the space ahead of him. This gives us some insight into the centre-back's mental process when it comes to defending his area in these kinds of situations. He thrives in settled defensive phases, including the mid-low block. Whenever he's given time to think and calculate the best possible solution to the attacking problem from a defensive perspective, he typically performs to a high enough standard. On this occasion, we see that the centre-back does indeed have to turn and deal with the runner moving in behind who receives the through pass. The transition is seamless and emphasizes the importance of body positioning when defending in a situation such as the one laid out above. Yoro sticks to his man well as the dribbler attempts to carry the ball past him and into a decent position for chance creation or possibly even goal scoring before the 190 cm defender utilizes his long limbs to make a crucial last-ditch challenge inside the box to protect his goal. The Lille man is incredibly difficult for ball carriers to get past, and this results mostly from his ability to position himself in highly advantageous positions as well as use his long limbs to his advantage and get something on the ball even if he's positioned somewhat away. Yoro also tends to be incredibly persistent when it comes to keeping track of dribblers, with a knack for really sticking to his man. Figure 4 shows another instance of Yoro utilizing his strong sense of defensive positioning to be in just the right place to regain possession in what could have been a threatening scenario for his team. Here, we are provided with an excellent example of how Yoro works best in the defensive partnership. While his central defensive partner runs out of the back line to act as the aggressor and challenge the opposition receiver in the middle third, Yoro drops off and prepares for the possibility his teammate is beaten. That's ultimately what happens. As we enter the second, top right, of our quartet of images above, we observe that Yoro ensures he checks his shoulder at an appropriate time, in between the opposition dribbler's heavy touches, keeping himself 1. Aware of other attackers looking to run in behind and exploit the space on his blind side, and 2. Remain aware of his teammates' positioning. As play progresses, we see the ball-far fullback close the space between himself and Yoro as a runner attempts to dart into it after Yoro has alerted his teammate to this potential issue, a great display of on-the-pitch leadership and intelligence from the young defender. Finally, when the opponent on the ball out wide attempts his cross into the danger zone, Yoro is perfectly placed between the ball carrier and the runner behind to intercept the pass and get the ball out of harm's way. Quite casually, making what could have been an important attacking moment for the opposition a pretty trivial event in the grand scheme of this game, Yoro is a very calculated and cerebral defender whose intelligence is exhibited by the way in which he often pops up in just the right position to deal with issues while making the job of centre-back in League One look a lot easier than it actually is. Defending in the mid-low block can be much more mentally draining than physically, but for Yoro, it doesn't appear incredibly taxing, which is where he really adds value. He can make good defensive decisions quickly and efficiently with good reliability over the course of 90 minutes. No player is perfect, that includes Yoro. When scouting a player, identifying the weaknesses is always just as important, if not more important, than the strengths. For Yoro, it's imperative he's placed in the right defensive situations that allow him to show the best of himself and succeed while masking the scenarios that cause him to be somewhat exposed, such as when he's dragged out and forced to defend more aggressively. When Yoro is forced into an engagement on the attacker's terms rather than his own, he isn't as comfortable and can struggle a bit. He doesn't like moments of chaos. This can occur when his team lose the ball deep when trying to play out from the back and in defensive transitions. Figure 5 shows an example of Yoro getting caught out when engaging an attacker driving forward against Lille on the counter. The centre-back is visibly uncomfortable as he initially makes the decision to abandon his post, so to speak, at the deepest point of the backline and approach the ball carrier dribbling towards him. After first closing the distance, Yoro begins backtracking, aiming to deny the ball carrier, Amine Guiri, space to attack behind him, slow the attacker down and give his team time to recover or force the Rennes playmaker into a mistake that would allow Yoro to regain possession. However, Guiri is a very impactful dribbler of the highest quality who found a way past Yoro. This ultimately forced the LOSC defender into making a foul in what could have been a dangerous spot for a Rouge Et Noir free kick. In this case, Lille were down by 2 goals in the second half, so the onus was on them to take the game to their opponents, which probably led to Rennes ultimately getting more counterattacking opportunities as Les Dogues threw more bodies forward and took greater risks in possession. This obviously isn't Yoro's ideal defensive scenario. He performs much better in settled defensive phases and can get caught out if he rushes into engagements, as he had to in this instance. In addition to the above, a speedy and agile attacker could find a way to carve open a shooting opportunity when 1v1 with Yoro with the ball at his feet, as we've seen at times this term, so he isn't infallible in 1v1s either. Lastly, Yoro is evidently still young and still has a ways to go when it comes to completely filling out his large frame. Some physical development is still very much possible for the young centre-back, which will help make him a more imposing physical unit who would not be outmuscled by even the strongest forwards and potentially make him an even greater asset in the air. In conclusion, Yoro is highly sought after due to the unique traits he possesses as a composed central defender who specializes in covering as the more passive center-back in a back two, probably alongside a more aggressive partner or potentially the central defender in a back three. He reads the game to an extremely high level for an 18-year-old and possesses an excellent ability to position himself and shape his body in exactly the right ways. As we've analyzed above, he can be exposed when he's forced to defend aggressively, but there's still ample room for physical development in his game. All in all, Yoro is clearly a very good defensive prospect for his age, and it's no wonder he's attracting plenty of interest given the level he's performing at and the composure he displays off the ball as a very intelligent centre-back despite his lack of experience. This type of centre-back would often develop his critical mental skills far later in his career than we're seeing with the LOSC man. Given the extent to which Les Dogues have relied upon him in France's top flight this term, having just turned 18 in November, we can see why the world's top clubs would view the youngster as a worthy investment to help along with his continued development.